Hello. My name is Mani. Welcome to my YouTube video. So, mostly making this video to test out this mic. Sorry if I stutter or jumbled up my words. I talk kind of fast. I try not to, but sometimes I do, and it don't make sense. But today, we're setting up my Pinterest. Now, I do have a few other Pinterest accounts, but I don't have a Pinterest account for specifically what I'm doing, life coaching, right? So trying to find some inspirational stuff. Look, I have made YouTube videos before, but I've never really sitting down. I've never sat down and recorded, I guess. No, it doesn't make sense. I never sat down and with the mic and made the whole setup and wrote a script and stuff for a video. I've done it. I've tried it before. YouTube was acting funny, so I stopped for a second before I could post anything. So hopefully this video works. I'm using a different program, using Canva today. So we're testing that out, and apparently Google now has a video editing feature software thing. I don't know if they've had that. Never seen it on my other accounts, but I have it now, I guess. So some background about me. My name is Mani. I am 23 years old, just turned 23. My birthday was literally yesterday. And yeah, look, I've gotten into life coaching because the way I really go about my life, I do things in kind of a manifestation kind of way. I use a lot of intention setting and attracting of what I want. Manifestation, I've always said, isn't asking and receiving, right? It's more of setting that intention and aligning with the frequency of that intention. So for example, people who win the lottery, right? You suddenly won the lottery, but you've been broke your whole life. Not to say, you shouldn't win the lottery. Not to say you don't know how to handle money, but if you're not used to handling a certain amount of money, you haven't learned how to figure it out, or you haven't talked to somebody about it, or you don't have a specific person for that, it might be harder for you to hold on to that money or to keep it going in a way. Some people blow their entire, winnings. Some people keep it. Some people get a financial advisor, but they're matching that frequency of holding that money instead of matching the frequency of their self before they had the money. Matching your frequency of your same old self, even though you're in a new timeline because you have this money, you're going to go back to your old self every time. It'll suffice for a little bit. You might get some nice things. You might get a house. You might get, revamp your wardrobe or whatever. But at the end of the day, how you gonna maintain those things? You're not matching that lifestyle. You're not matching that frequency. So it's harder to maintain because it's not a part of who you are originally. And that's just no problem with that. You can always learn. You don't have to. You don't have to be as far as money and having a certain status. You don't gotta be stereotypically how other people with money are. You just have to know how to hold it if that's something you like to do. If you don't want to hold it, that's fine. But to maintain it, to keep it going, to continue paying for that house you got, or continue to get the things that you purchased with your winnings, your earnings. So my whole thing is I have a jewelry business. Shameless plug. I sell angel numbers. I don't know if you can see it. But I sell angel numbers, and I set up my own website, my own news and stuff. Over the years, I've had this business for about a year and some change. Let me think. Yeah, 2.5 or a year and a half. I started before I moved out of my auntie's house, and so I started out with basically nothing. All I really had was an urge to do it, and a few jewelry making skills from LLC I've been had LLC since I was 19, but I was making wire jewelry. I was making nose cuffs and earrings and necklaces, and it was fun, but child, sitting down and making each piece was definitely not fun. And then coming back into my business and getting into more necklaces and bracelets and trying to get into permanent jewelry, I realized like I cannot spend this much time making each individual piece, and also trying to work a normal job or trying to do the other parts of my business that require just as much attention and energy, especially when I'm not particularly passionate about jewelry making specifically, but I am passionate about like permanent jewelry or jewelry repair. I do like doing stuff like that rather than specifically hand making jewelry. Not to say I can't, not to say it's like, below me or anything. It's just I don't have the personal tolerance for it, and I applaud people who do. And that's why I plan on using my jewelry business as a platform for actual jewelry artists to sell their pieces or get exposure, etc., etc. So, trying to build up a following and customer base for that specifically, especially in my city, where there are a lot of artists who are trying to do pop-ups and get their name out there and get seen by more people. So yeah, that's my whole big old goal. So I've started doing this whole thing through manifestation and whatnot. Like, that's what I've been operating on, because as an entrepreneur, you need something to keep you sane. Okay, because this is not for the weak. Okay, you go months sometimes without making a single dollar. So you gotta have this thing I call Guided Delusion. Okay, Guided Delusion. I came up with this. I ain't hear this from nobody else. If it already exists, I ain't heard of it, and that's a fact. But I would describe it as a level of delusion that you have that is either based in more reality or based in more of a dream or a big goal, I'd say. So if we lay it out, like, wish I could draw a picture for y'all. Use Canva again. Canva been coming in clutch. So yeah, if we draw it out, that's messy. If we draw it out like that, we got 10 levels of guided delusion. So we got 0 over here, and we got 10 over here. Okay. So each line represents a level of guided delusion. Okay. 0 represents no guided delusion, no delusion at all. You're fully in reality. Whatever you see is how you take it. You don't think any deeper than what you see in front of you, which is perfectly fine. A lot of people live in reality, and they believe when they see it. If they don't see it, then it's not happening, or it's like based on societal rules, they'd rather not give into the idea that they would do something or do this thing without like evidence that it's going to work out, or without that backing that it's like a real thing. So like, for example, somebody who is trying to get into college, they might have like decent grades, but they might not have the qualifications for like Harvard. Let's say they don't have the qualifications for Harvard, but they can go to like Idaho State or something, right? We'll see that objectively and be like, okay, I don't have the qualifications for Harvard. Like, this is not something I'm going to pursue because I don't have the qualifications for. I'd rather go somewhere I have the qualifications for than to strive for something that I am less likely to get into based on what's already, I guess, factual about reality. So the fact is, I don't have the qualifications. I'm not getting in, point blank. I'm going to Idaho State because of that, right? The next level of delusion would be thinking, okay, I might not have the qualifications, but I would really like to go to Harvard. If I could get in some type of way, some type of, a little bit of luck, like maybe if I try to bring my grades up or have more qualifications for this, I can put in physical effort to do that. But I must work very hard. I must, study every day. I must be the top student. I must be, fix every, that level 1 of guided delusion comes from I have a better chance of doing it if I work really hard, or if I'm going to say level 1 is more of like, I have the idea that I can do it. Like in some reality, I can possibly do it, but in this reality, I'm not, basically. So 0 would be, in every reality, I'm not getting into Harvard because I don't have the qualifications, so I'm going to just go to Idaho State. Level 1 is, in some other reality, I got into Harvard. based on whatever qualifications I have in that reality. But in this one, I only qualify for Idaho State, so I'm gonna go to Idaho State. So each level is just more, you just gotta add more delusion to it. So like 2 would be more of, I could have the qualifications to get into Harvard, but I think I would have to work really, really, really hard, like really, really hard to, or be born into it, or Like there is a slightly better chance in this reality of me doing that if I do certain things, have my life laid out a certain way, if I've had certain people in my life to push me to that point or get me further, or basically get me through the door, connection, stuff like that. If I had all of that, then yeah, I can get to Harvard, but I don't have that, so I would just stay at Idaho State and basically just keep going up till you get to 10. 10 would be like, I have no qualifications, 0, absolutely 0, but I think I can get to Harvard, and look, I don't even gotta try. It'll just come to me. Because what if I do have the qualifications? What if, someday there's like a random, need for my qualifications, even if they don't fit the initial standards of getting in. You never know. And I have like no interest in going anywhere else. I'm not going to Idaho State. I want to go to Harvard. So they're going to have to let me in because my qualifications, like, they're going to need me basically. So that's like level 10 delusion, like fully believing that you can get into Harvard without matching the qualifications. If you're level 10 and you're like, I could be in the right time at the right place and run into the right person and stumble my way into Harvard, but compared to like level 0 to 3, based in reality, what is the likelihood of you doing that, So that's basically the delusion part of it. But the guided part is knowing that everyone's connected so like intricately. You could run into somebody. You really could. Like, it's a possibility. It's a possibility you couldn't. It's a possibility you could, out of some women. And if you believe it enough, like if you really like believe it that it's gonna happen, like you don't stress about it. You're like, I got it in a bag, like, and even if it doesn't happen, like, okay, but it will. That's that guided delusion. I would say I'm at a GD level 8 personally. So level 8 is that I can absolutely achieve any dream that I have. All the dreams that I have, I can achieve. Fortunately, I have to put certain things in place, and a lot of things come to me. A lot of things I attract, I'm not chasing, I attract. And I understand that certain things come at certain times. So I'm also approaching it from a realistic stance. Like, no, I'm not going to receive $1 million tomorrow, but I could, who's to say that I can't? Who's to say that somebody wouldn't give me $1 million tomorrow? There are people out there who might exist, but I'm also fine if it doesn't happen, because I know the likelihood of that is lower than anything else, And so, but that's still a goal at the end of the day, and that's still something I want to reach. So I believe it's still mine. So that's that guided delusion guiding me. It's put me on a path where I know what my intentions are. I'm setting an intention. I'm moving towards it, but I understand that there are certain things I need to do to push me further down that path towards that intention, or match that frequency of that intention, in comparison to level 10, where it's like your existence is already the matching of that frequency and you don't have to do anything further, getting there with certain stuff. Yeah, honestly, that's all I have for today. If you like this content, consider subscribing or following me on social media. My personal page is rusty.goldd, and my jewelry page is somnijeweler. My jewelry page is somnijeweler. That's SOMNIJEWELER. Jeweler. Okay. Yeah, I might have another page for this account actually, but regardless, if you want to hear more of this, stay tuned for more. This is my first video, so I don't know how it's gonna come out. I honestly don't care. Like, I don't know, I like it. I like making stuff like this. I've been meaning to for a long time, but I've been focusing on my jewelry and my other jobs. I have like 4 jobs, I'm not gonna lie. Need to cut that down, but I hope to be consistent with this in some type of way. I want to make it easier for myself to to do to get into. Like, that's a part of manifestation that I really value. You can make it easier for yourself. Like, you can adjust your life how you need to. You don't have to do things cookie cutter, you know. So that's what I'm trying to get into. But yeah. Anyways, have a great day. Wish me happy birthday. Love you. Bye.